Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. We are here in the county office building in downtown White Plains, and I'm joined for this update on the aftermath of Hurricane Ida with our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, who is with us, and the leaders of our Department of Emergency Services, Commissioner Richard Wishney and Deputy Commissioner Susan Spear. I'm very grateful right at the outset to the men and women of Westchester County government in a host of different departments, in emergency services, in public works, in public safety, and in numerous other parts who have been out all night long trying to deal with this. And I must say, hand in hand with the municipal workers of every town, every city, and every village in this county, with the support and assistance of our state officials who have been right at the ready at every turn. I want to give you an update of where we are as of 11 o'clock this morning in Westchester's response to Hurricane Ida. We know that Governor Hochul has recently updated on the statewide scene, and now we want to give you an idea of what's happening here in our local backyard. As of this morning of 8 o'clock, with the good assistance of our county attorney, John Nona, we've established a local state of emergency proclamation, which gives us some temporary extraordinary powers to do certain types of things like close roads and do some other similar things that we would use specifically for the purpose of dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. This does not extend to every other possible usage, but definitely for our recoup from this storm. And as we go forward today, we recognize that it's a beautiful weather day today. It is not raining. It is not expected to rain for the next few days. So we think we have the best possible conditions for the drying out after last night's storm. But for all of us who went through the storm, saw what it was like, I spent time both last night and this morning personally out looking at situations. This storm hit us hard. It hit us harder than Hurricane Henri did, and we spent more time talking about Henri in the aftermath because the first landfall of Henri came in this area of the country. It landed ultimately in Rhode Island and affected us here in Westchester County. Hurricane Ida dealt a devastating blow to the city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana. And so because it was going over land up the Mississippi Valley and across Pennsylvania and heading our way, there was less of a concern. The wind factors dropped dramatically when it reached Westchester County. But the flooding impact, particularly because we were saturated from the aftermath of Henri, and also a very wet summer. I think we can all acknowledge that we've had more rain this summer than we know what to do with. We wish we could transport that rain to our brothers and sisters on the West Coast, because in California and Nevada, they desperately need rain, and we've had more than our share of it. But because we were saturated already with the ground, we did not get the same type of absorption. And so when we get heavy rain, as we did, the runoff creates the flooding, and this is why we are where we are today. According to the information that we have at our fingertips, the rainfall totals in Westchester County ranged from 5 inches of rain to 10 inches of rain. And just as a rough rule of thumb, if you have about 4 inches of rain, that will affect the most sensitive parts of our infrastructure. Generally, our parkway system, parkways were created back in the 1920s, 1930s. They were not built for the kind of use that we have, and they were all built in river valleys. That's why we call them the Bronx River Parkway, the Hutchinson River Parkway, the Sawmill River Parkway, the Springbrook Parkway, which did come along a little later than the other ones. Each of those parkways are very vulnerable to flooding, and when you reach about 4 inches of rain, you will start to see flooding. When you get 5 inches of rain, 6 inches of rain, then those parkways shut down, and then we got, in some places, as much as 10 inches of rain. Mount Kisco, in the northern eastern part of our county, had 8.46 inches of rain reported. New Rochelle on the Sound Shore, 7.79 inches of rain. Tarrytown on the Hudson River, 6.97 inches of rain. And even at the low at Tarrytown, 6 inches is a lot of rain, and it is more than the system can absorb in that short of a period of time. Our high tide last night was at 8 p.m., and when you have high tide, particularly on the Long Island Sound, the water that collects in the streams and brooks and rivers cannot exit into the Sound. So it backs up at high tide, and it floods the low-lying areas that are adjacent to those rivers. So we saw a lot of urban flooding in the village of Mamaroneck. We saw some of it in the city of Rye. They are two of the most vulnerable areas to flooding in this county. Bronxville is also part of that from the Bronx River, and we saw some flooding in Mount Kisco and a number of other places. This is not unusual, but the amount of it today is unusual. This is probably most analogous to the storm that hit us in April of 2007, and that's saying a lot. Keeping in mind that different storms have different impacts. Last year when Hurricane Isaias hit us, we got the wind side of that storm, which is the eastern side of a hurricane as it moved through our area. So we had power lines down, and we lost a tremendous amount of power service to a number of people. This storm, which hit us from a different direction, was heavily a rain and water-oriented storm, not dissimilar from Henri, although from a different direction. And because we had so much saturation, we were not able to see drainage last night. Unfortunately, and all of the individuals on the media, all the media outlets you watched, whatever we had to say in our conversations, stay off the roads, stay off the roads, stay off the roads. Many people did not. Perhaps they had urgent reasons to be out of their home, but as part of their being out on the road from some point in time last night, over 200 cars were stranded in various locations in and around Westchester County, and not just limited to our parkways. As it stands this morning, we're still closed on the Bronx River Parkway from Bronxville to White Plains. We are still closed in parts of the Hutchinson River Parkway. I personally saw the southbound portion of the Hutch closed from Mamaroneck Avenue, Mamaroneck Road, down into the New Rochelle area, and 20 cars on the side of the road that had not yet been towed. There's tow trucks out there to remove disabled cars. The Sawmill River Parkway, which generally floods immediately in the Pleasantville area, and then as the water gets higher, the rainfall is higher, it starts to flood down more in the Ardsley-Hastings corridor, down into portions of Yonkers. Those areas were flooded. And we saw it as well in a number of different other areas of non-parkway areas. Wherever you have a road that is near a body of water, and it could be a very small residential street, it could be a thoroughfare between communities, that body of water rose. The water could not drain sufficiently quickly enough. It overcame the roadway. We talk all the time about do not drive through standing water. We all make decisions at a moment's notice. I have certainly, behind the wheel of the car, made some stupid decisions. Unfortunately, we have a number of cars that had to be abandoned, and as part of our county response, which Commissioner Wishney, Deputy Commissioner Spear, and our police officials were responsible for, we went out and retrieved many of those drivers to safety from cars that had to be abandoned, and now the ability of those cars to function will be in question. That will be for the individual owners to deal with as we go forward. Where we are today, those 4 parkways that I've mentioned are still closed in total or in part, and there are a number of other roads that are closed as well across Westchester County. Possibly the most important ones is a closure of Route 9, a major north-south route in the vicinity of Irvington. We have some closure on the southbound Taconic Parkway in downtown Valhalla. If you know that particular area, it's just above Kensico Dam. You have the railroad station and the restaurant right by the railroad station in downtown Valhalla. Cleveland Street is the name of the cross street. That is closed because of flooding, and there are other areas like that we've had flooding. We expect to open most of those roads before the end of the day, but we can't promise that we'll have an automatically normal evening rush hour. Now, Metro North suspended their services on all 3 branches here that serve Westchester County residents, so there was no way for you to take mass transit into the city, and the B-Line bus service was suspended in the beginning of the day. It appears that we will be able to resume B-Line bus service at 12 noon. However, there will be a number of different route changes to reflect the fact that some roads are still washed out. There's some trees that are down and perhaps some power lines. That's going to make it difficult. We are posting, as we speak now, on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the listings of closures. They're a rather long list, a little more than we can go through just in a few minutes, but I will highlight that a lot of the Route 1 routes that go through Yonkers, Route 5, Nepperhan Avenue, Route 6, on North Broadway of Yonkers, all of those have detour locations. There are some detours on Taxter Road in Greenburgh, White Plains Road, Sawmill River Road in Elmsford, Hillside between Tarrytown Road and the Westchester Community College, some of the higher number roads down in Mount Vernon, Route 52, which provides service on Fifth Avenue between Kingsbridge Avenue and Dyer Avenue in the Bronx, which connects to the subway system. That route is being out. Playland Park is closed today, and those routes that serve Playland Parkway are out, 75, Route 75, Route 91. And there are a full listing of these under our Department of Transportation listing, and we hope that if you are traveling, you intend to use a B-Line bus for your travel, Do check that list so you know what's happening. You'll be standing on a corner. Maybe your corner is perfectly dry, but it's on a portion of the route that's been eliminated from the bus, and you need to know about that before you go and wait for the bus, given those changes. We are happy, though, that the Beeline bus system is expected to operate after 12 noon. That was not at all clear to us this morning, so it is a sign that we are coming back, and the professionals in every department and our partners, Liberty Lines in the case of the transportation route, are working very hard to try to put us back together again. From the standpoint of our county airport, the county airport remains open. It generally remains open under almost all circumstances. However, as you can imagine, since the rain started last night, certain equipment did not fly in. Flights were canceled, so it's not here to fly out. So if you are scheduled on a commercial carrier, which is about 20% of the traffic at the airport, call your carrier in advance. Do not go out to the airport to find out it is canceled. Call ahead, find out if the flight is on or not on, and then your carrier will give you alternate transportation plans. We have Airport Road, by the way, is reopened. It was closed for a while, but is now reopened to traffic. That is essential if you're going to access the commercial side of the airport and the terminal. On the power side, we have reported within the hour 16,800 customers for Con Edison are without power, spread out in a number of different areas, Sound Shore, but other parts of the county as well. NYSEG, which provides service in the northern tier of towns right along the Putnam border over to Pound Ridge, those towns that border Connecticut, has 1,249 outages reported as of an hour ago. We're told now that number is down to 621, so that's a good sign of NYSEG restoration, and they report that they expect those 621 customers to be fully restored by the end of the day. 16,000 Con Ed customers is a more problematic number. We'll wait for an update from Con Edison. Our friends in emergency services are in direct contact with them, and we will have whatever reports available that can be. We have had to evacuate a number of people from their homes, as well as those that were in their cars. And so there have been at least 2 municipal shelters that have been established. One of them at Mamaroneck High School will serve anybody that has to be removed from Mamaroneck Village. And if there are vacancies that have to be created in Larchmont Village or Mamaroneck Town, Mamaroneck High School serves as a shelter. I understand there's about 100 people that were sheltered there that had to be removed from their homes. And in Greenburgh, at the Anthony Veteran Park, Town Park, in Ardsley, I think it's off of Heatherdale Road, if I know my geography, that has also been established as a shelter. There may be more of them created around the county, although the waters are receding and the problems are lessening as we go along. That does not mean that every individual is fully able to go back to their house and continue to live and function there. So there may be other shelters. You're welcome to check with the county to find out that information, or check with your local municipality, whatever town, village, or city you live in. Call your local village hall, town hall, city hall, call the clerk's office or the chief executive of your community. They will let you know if there is a shelter, and you can access information for that purposes. County resources have been allocated to do some of those county tasks that I talked about, clearing our parkways and retrieving the stranded motorists. And again, that's a combination of our emergency services, DPW, transportation, and our county police working cooperatively together. Also, the county government has resources that we have put at the ready for other purposes. We have a number of different pumps that we have available. We used one to help White Plains Hospital pump out water that they had. We used some for our own county jail that took on basement water, and also the county center, which is closed today. No vaccinations at the county center. We'll talk about that in a second. But those pumps were allocated by us to do that. We provided police assistance as county government to the city of Mount Vernon to help them deal with some of their issues that occurred last night in their community, not just related to the flood, but related to other normal police activities. So the county was there to back up the city of Mount Vernon. These 6 rescue teams that the county has that went out there, some of it is swift water rescue, and some of it is technical rescue. And in both cases, these are brave men and women who put themselves in harm's way to help other people who are jeopardized. They might be in a private home, they might be in a stranded car. Whatever those circumstances are, those rescue teams were out all night long, and we have a debt of gratitude. And I know Joan has already asked me to make sure that we have some kind of recognition activity for all of these people, so that they can know that their colleagues in county government appreciate what they've done, and the people of Westchester appreciate what they've done. We had an oil spill in White Plains last night, which required specialty response. Westchester County has a hazmat team that could respond. They're trained. They have the equipment and the clothing necessary to handle that type of spill that has been resolved. But that is an example of the regional government of the county stepping in to help a municipal government resolve a problem in their backyard. There have been some buildings that have either collapsed or have been put into some degree of jeopardy of collapse. Not any big, large buildings and great occupancies, but some individual private houses, smaller buildings. There was one in Portchester, and that also requires a rescue. And some people have been rescued in situations like that. We had one in Portchester last night where our team jumped in to be able to be helpful in that regard. And so with all of those different things, we're trying to catch up. As the waters recede and the weather is nice, we think most of the county will be back to normal by the end of the day, but not all of it. We encourage you, if you don't have to leave the house, if it's not essential, try not to do that. You don't know where you will still run into examples of roads that have been shut down. If you do have to travel, be aware of your directions from point A to point B. No alternative routes. You know the Bronx River Parkway is closed. If you are in Mount Vernon or Yonkers and you have to get to White Plains, there are alternate routes. You need to know what they are, whether it's Central Avenue, Route 22, move west and get on I-87 to I-287. Whatever those things are, wherever you're going, know your alternate routes and try to be prepared to deal with that to the greatest extent possible. Our declaration of emergency will put us eligible for funding from higher levels of government, but all of our local governments, including the county, will track the costs that we're putting out now. We've already been doing that because of Henri, and we will reach out to the state and to the federal government for some assistance along those areas. I must tell you that Governor Hochul and her team have reached out to us. I had direct conversation this morning with Edgar Santana from her team, and Brian Hecht from her team, and Joan and the EOC are in a building that also includes state resources, and the interconnect between the state and the county has been easy and ongoing. And you should know that when moments like this come, it is not about this level of government or that level of government. We don't worry about the parties that you're in and all that stuff. We worry about cooperating to resolve as much of these problems as we can resolve. And so I want to be clear that we're appreciative to the state of New York for their resources and their coordination, their help. And of course, we've worked closely with the municipal governments. Many of the local governments do not have the resources available to handle something of a certain magnitude, and we have tried our best to be there with them, alongside of them, where we can be. And in every case, as I said a second ago, the men and women who work for municipal government, oftentimes they're criticized, because it is fashionable to do that. But last night, every one of them went above and beyond. And I hope when you travel around, as you do to police and firefighters, make sure you show some respect and some appreciation for the work that they've done. As we go through the rest of the day, we hope to hear that more of our customers will be restored to power. We hope that more of our roads will be opened, that we'll be able to travel through the community more easily, that the bus system will be back up fully in all the different routes. And we intend to keep you posted. Anyone who is following this in the media, you're welcome to communicate with us. We have our Deputy Director of Communications, Joe Scamato, on site with us. Our Director of Communications, Catherine Chaffee, is also available with us. We're happy to have the skill of Lisa Reyes, John Borst, and Chelsea Pagano to interact with any members of the press. This being an 11 o'clock update, you'll no doubt want a 2 o'clock update and a 4 o'clock update, and we'll be happy to give you that best of what we know. The worst part of the experience is always where there's fatalities, a loss of life. We talk about that with COVID. For everything that we do, it's about trying to avoid loss of life. There was loss of life in Westchester last night. We do not have firm confirmation of the totality of that. We do know there is, and I have received this material directly from a local source, there is confirmed one person who has died as part of this. They were caught up in an urban flash flooding situation where they were in their car, got out of their car, flash flood. The person that they were with, the spouse they were with, is missing. And we hope for the best, but we wait to hear more. There may be other instances of that. And as we now go out and try to deal with people who may have been in remote situations in their home, and perhaps people that could not communicate with authorities in their home community, we hope that we do not add to that total. But it does tell you that when you hear the advice, and it's not my advice, I'm just articulating what we all know. when you see standing water, do not try to drive through it. And I don't care if you got a four-wheel drive vehicle or you jacked up the tires on your car. You can get stuck in that water and you can drown on a parkway or a road in Westchester County. It has happened, and it can happen again, and it can happen to you if you don't use practical thinking. And practical thinking is do not go around a barricade because you think it's convenient, because you think you can negotiate the water. You can't. And if you don't, then we have to send people at best to go in and save you at their risk of life and limb. And if worst case scenario comes and you don't survive, then the tragedy is a multiplied tragedy to your family and to your friends, the people that love you. We don't want anybody to lose their life. We want to be able to get through these storms. We have now had 2 hurricanes in the space of 10 days. This is not the last hurricane. This is still fairly early in the hurricane season. And this hurricane, which we knew about because of its devastation to New Orleans, found its way inland north to us. So whenever we hear about any hurricane being formed off the shore of Africa, making its way across the North Atlantic, we have to be vigilant. And I encourage you to do the things that we have talked about. Richard and Susan talked about this very thing 10 days ago. Have a go bag ready for you. Do not wait until the water has risen to a point in your home where you can't get out. Move earlier to higher ground. Know where you will go for higher ground. Know from your community if there is going to be a shelter, where is it likely to be, so you can be prepared to go there if you have to do that. When we say stay off the roads, we're not kidding around. This is, you do what you want. You're a free country, but you foolishly will put yourself in jeopardy, or maybe your loved ones in jeopardy. So try as much as you can to plan it. If you've gotten through this storm and you've gotten through Henri, wonderful, more storms are coming. Be prepared for the next one. Let me open it up to any questions from the press that we have in the room. No questions in there. Do we have any remote questions? Catherine Chaffee, who's with us, will give us additional questions.
We do have questions. So the first question is from David Proper from the Journal News. He asked, do you think FEMA should provide financial assistance to homeowners that suffered damage last night?
Well, we are certainly going to go to FEMA with a grocery list of those damages that have occurred. Some of it depends on where the damage is, whether that area is covered. Some individual homeowners may have flood insurance, they may not, depends on the area they're in. We will certainly advocate for as much support for FEMA as we can, from FEMA as we can for Westchester impacts, and we'll obviously hope for the best. This storm did such damage to the south and to the Mississippi River Valley. State upon state is going to have a need. Sometimes you find that when you talk on a national level, some states don't care a lot about whether New York has a problem or not. I think this time so many states are included in it. I would think the federal government would respond systematically to everybody who was affected by Ida. But how much money, where, how it'll be applied, who's eligible, all of those things, David, have to be worked out in the specifics of the application. Susan has recently made sure to tell all of our municipal governments, please track the money that you're spending that's directly related to the storm and its response.
Next question, which is also the final question that we have in right now, is where did the death take place that you mentioned?
I'm not at liberty to say that. That will come out when the police report publicly announces it. It is confirmed, but it is the authority and the responsibility, which I want to respect, of the respective police department to make their formal announcement. They have a formal process that's reviewed. They are searching for the second individual to determine if that person survived or did not survive, so they have a more complete report. There are other reports out there that are not confirmed about other people whose lives are in jeopardy. But as soon as we know that information, David, we'll be happy to release it to you. And I suspect that the police department that is specifically doing the investigation, because the fatality and the prospective issues came in their community, that they'll have that announcement probably fairly soon. Very good. If there are any other questions from any member of the press, Catherine Chaffee is with us, 995-2932. Joe Scamato, 995-2941. Lisa Reyes is with us, 995-2918. And hopefully I remember all my extensions. And if I do, then I guess I'm doing my job. But if there's a reason to give a more comprehensive update before the end of the day, we'll be happy to do that. We will be responding to media requests to give updates as the day goes along. If there is something of unique importance, we will break back in again. But we'll try not to abuse your nature. Many of you are worrying about the circumstances in your own life and your own home, and that should be your primary attention. But we do want you to know that the county government is on the job. We're working. We're working in cooperation with local governments. We're working in cooperation with the state government, and most importantly, that the men and women who who serve you in these positions are going above and beyond to actually deliver the service. Somebody is going through waist-high water to save another life, and that is really the story of county government. Not me standing here in a suit giving you the update, but the people who are out there working on your behalf, and I hope you appreciate that. I know I do. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching, and as I said, if we need to break back in, we will. Other than that, be safe, and good luck, and I hope to see you on a better day.